Chapter 1. The perfect life shattered. I had always thought we were the perfect couple. Emma and I had been together for 5 years, and I couldn't imagine a future without her. We were comfortable, happy, and had built a life together that seemed unshakable. I thought I knew everything about her, her habits, her dreams, even her darkest fears. But nothing could have prepared me for the shock that was about to shatter everything. It all started with a random text one night. I had just returned from a late meeting at work and was about to settle into the couch when I saw it. A notification popped up on Emma's phone, which was lying on the coffee table. Her phone never buzzed when she wasn't around, and I never had the urge to snoop. But something about the notification caught my attention. It was a message from a guy named Nick, a name I didn't recognize. I glanced at it, my curiosity piqued. The message simply said, "I miss you. Can't wait to see you again soon." I sat there frozen, my mind racing. My heart pounded in my chest. Who was Nick? What was he to her? She had never mentioned him before. I didn't know what to think or how to feel. Was this a joke? Or was something more sinister happening behind my back? I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was probably nothing. But that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. I went into the bedroom, trying to push the thoughts out of my mind, but every time I closed my eyes, the image of that text haunted me. The next morning, Emma acted as if nothing had changed. She kissed me goodbye before heading off to work, just like any other day. But I couldn't ignore the unease creeping into my chest. I needed answers. I waited until she left for her afternoon yoga class, my nerves eating at me. I walked over to the coffee table, picked up her phone, and unlocked it. My hands shook as I searched through her messages. There was nothing particularly alarming at first, just regular conversations with friends and family. But when I checked her text history with Nick, my world came crashing down. The conversations weren't just friendly banter. They were flirtatious, intimate, and full of longing. It wasn't just one message. There were dozens. They talked about secret meetings, stolen kisses, and things I had never heard her say to me. The final message from Nick, which I had seen the night before, was only the tip of the iceberg. There was a trail of texts that confirmed it. Emma had been having an affair. I felt a cold wave wash over me as I processed the truth. My heart was heavy, my stomach twisted into knots. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, had been hiding something from me. For how long had this been going on? Was it just Nick, or were there others? I sat on the couch, holding her phone in my hands, feeling my world crumble. I didn't know what to do next. I had so many questions, so many emotions, but the most overwhelming one was the betrayal. How could she do this to me? To us? That afternoon I sat in silence, staring at the phone. I wasn't sure if I should confront her immediately or wait for the right moment. My mind spun with thoughts of revenge, of confronting her with the evidence and letting her know I knew the truth. But something in me knew I had to be strategic. I needed to find out everything. I needed to know how deep this ran before making any decisions. As the hours passed, I sat there, tortured by the secrets she had kept from me. Little did I know, the journey ahead would be more complex and painful than I could have ever imagined. Chapter 2. The confrontation. That night I barely slept. The weight of what I had discovered hung heavily in the air, pressing down on me like an unshakable storm cloud. I replayed the messages over and over in my mind, each word more devastating than the last. The affair was real. There was no denying it. But there were still so many questions. How long had it been going on? Was it just physical, or was there more to it than that? The next morning I had to face her. Emma would be back from her yoga class soon, and I couldn't put it off any longer. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my coffee, my hands gripped tightly around the mug. I wanted to think through my approach, but the anger kept bubbling to the surface. How could she betray me like this? We had built a life together, shared so many memories. To think that she had been lying to my face while carrying on with someone else, it was unbearable. The sound of the front door opening snapped me out of my thoughts. Emma was home. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was coming. I stood up, and there she was, walking into the kitchen with a smile on her face. She looked beautiful as always, but it felt like a stranger was standing in front of me. The warm, loving woman I thought I knew had been replaced by someone who had deceived me. "Hey, babe," she greeted me cheerfully, completely unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. I couldn't contain myself any longer. "Don't hey babe me," I snapped, my voice shaking with emotion. "I know about you and Nick." Her face faltered for a brief moment, then quickly morphed into a mask of confusion and denial. What are you talking about?" I felt my anger rise, the heat of betrayal fueling the words that tumbled out of my mouth. "The texts, Emma. The messages. You think I didn't notice? I know you've been seeing him behind my back." She froze. Her face drained of color, and for a split second I saw a flicker of guilt. But it was quickly replaced by defensiveness. "Riley, I don't know what you're talking about. I swear you're misunderstanding something." "No, Emma," I said, my voice steady but filled with hurt. "I'm not misunderstanding anything. You've been lying to me, and I deserve the truth." She took a step back, her hands trembling as she tried to collect herself. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said, her voice cracking. "I never wanted to hurt you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You didn't mean to hurt me. You've been sneaking around behind my back for God knows how long, and you're telling me you didn't mean to hurt me." "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. It just happened." I shook my head, disgusted. "How long, Emma? How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, looking down at the floor, unwilling to meet my gaze. "A few months. A few months," I shouted, my heart breaking with each word. "A few months, and you couldn't find the decency to tell me the truth?" "I was afraid," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Afraid of losing you. Afraid of what it would mean if you found out. So I kept it from you, thinking I could fix it before you ever knew." "Fix it?" I laughed bitterly. "You can't fix this, Emma. You can't undo what you've done. You've destroyed everything." I know," she sobbed, stepping toward me. "I never wanted to hurt you. Swear. I love you, Riley." The words didn't comfort me. They only made the pain worse. Love. This wasn't love. Love didn't destroy the person it was meant to protect. Love didn't lie and betray. I wanted to walk away, to get out of there before I did something I'd regret, but something in me stopped. Maybe it was the lingering feelings of affection, or maybe it was just the sheer disbelief that the woman I loved could do this to me. But I couldn't walk away without hearing the rest of the story. "Who is Nick?" I demanded. "What's going on between you two?" She wiped her eyes, still avoiding my gaze. He's someone I met at work. It started innocently, but then it became something more. Something I couldn't stop." "And you thought this was okay?" I asked, incredulous. "You thought cheating on me was okay?" No, it's not," she cried. "But I didn't know how to stop. And when it started to feel like it was getting out of control, I panicked. I didn't know how to end it without losing everything." I stared at her, numb to the words she was saying. "You didn't know how to end it?" I repeated, the disbelief thick in my voice. "You didn't think the first thing to do was tell me? Be honest with me." "I was scared, Riley," she said, her voice shaking. "I didn't want to lose you. You should have thought about that before you started seeing him." I shot back, my anger flaring once more. "You should have thought about that before you lied to me." I couldn't look at her any longer. My chest felt tight, like someone had grabbed hold of my heart and was squeezing it. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved, had destroyed everything with a series of lies and betrayal. I didn't know how to fix this, or if I even wanted to anymore. I stood there, frozen, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. I had never felt more alone in my life. My mind was screaming for clarity, but there was none. All I had now were shattered pieces of what used to be. "Riley," Emma said softly, reaching out for me. But I couldn't bring myself to move. Please, just give me a chance to make this right. I backed away, shaking my head. No, no, Emma. It's over. And with that, I turned and walked out of the door, leaving her behind. It felt like I was walking away from a life I had once known, stepping into the unknown. But there was no turning back now. The betrayal had already been done, and nothing she said or did could change that. Chapter 3. A bitter aftermath. The days that followed were a blur of pain and confusion. I didn't want to go back to the apartment, but I didn't have anywhere else to stay. My friends and family tried to reach out, but I shut them out. The betrayal was too raw, too personal to explain. It wasn't just that Emma had cheated on me. It was everything she had hidden from me, the lies she had built up, the trust she had shattered. It felt like I was living in a nightmare, one I couldn't wake up from. I spent the first night in a hotel room, the silence deafening. I didn't sleep a wink. My mind kept replaying the confrontation over and over, Emma's tear-streaked face, her desperate attempts to explain, to make me understand. But there was no understanding. How could I ever trust her again? How could I ever look at her the same way after everything she had done? The next day, I decided I needed to clear my head. I took a walk around the city, aimlessly wandering through the crowded streets. It was strange to be out there, surrounded by life, while my own felt like it had come to a screeching halt. Everything around me seemed so normal. People going about their daily routines, laughing, chatting, oblivious to the storm raging inside of me. I found myself standing in front of a coffee shop, staring at the people inside through the window. They were laughing, talking, sharing stories. It seemed like such a simple, happy moment, and yet it felt so out of reach for me. My life had been turned upside down in an instant. I had trusted Emma completely, and she had shattered that trust without a second thought. I turned away from the window and started walking again, lost in my thoughts. I didn't know what I was looking for, or if I even wanted to find it. I had no answers, no solutions. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in this limbo forever. That evening, I returned to the apartment. The place where we had built so many memories together now felt like a foreign land. I stood outside for a moment, unsure of what to do next. Should I pack up my things and leave? Should I confront her again, ask her more questions, demand more answers? I didn't know. The thought of seeing her again made my stomach turn, but I also knew I couldn't keep running away from the reality of what had happened. I took a deep breath and walked inside. The apartment was eerily quiet. Emma wasn't home, but her things were still everywhere. Her clothes in the closet, her books on the coffee table, her makeup in the bathroom. It felt like she was still there, like she was just going to walk through the door any second, smile at me like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I sat down on the couch and stared at the empty space. My mind was spinning, the emotions too overwhelming to put into words. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do next. I didn't know how to move forward, how to heal from something like this. The pain of betrayal was like a weight pressing down on my chest, and I couldn't escape it. Just then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Emma. "Riley, I know I've hurt you and I'm sorry. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Please just talk to me. Please don't give up on us." My heart clenched as I read the message. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the room in anger, but another part of me, some weaker part, wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she could fix it, that we could somehow put the pieces back together. But I knew it wasn't that simple. The damage had been done, and trust couldn't be rebuilt in a single conversation or with a few words. I stared at the message for a long time before typing a response. "I don't know if we can fix this, Emma. You've broken something that can't be repaired. I need time. Please stop trying to contact me." I hit send, and a wave of finality washed over me. There was no going back. I had to move forward, even if I didn't know how. Later that evening, I packed a bag with just the essentials: clothes, toiletries, and a few personal items. I couldn't stay there anymore. The apartment that had once felt like home now felt like a prison. As I closed the door behind me, I felt a pang of sadness, but I didn't let it stop me. This was the beginning of something new, even if I didn't know where it would lead. I couldn't keep living in the past, haunted by what Emma had done. But the question remained, what now? What was I supposed to do with my life after everything had been shattered? The answer, I soon realized, was to move forward. To rebuild myself, to heal, and to find a new direction. The road ahead would be long and painful, but I couldn't keep looking back. I had to walk away from the wreckage and find a way to start over. Chapter 4. A New Path. The days after I left the apartment felt like I was walking through a fog. Each step was heavy, each moment a reminder of what had been lost. I didn't know where I was headed, but I knew I couldn't stay where I was. I rented a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, far enough away from our old life to give me some space but close enough that I didn't feel completely isolated. It wasn't much, just a one-bedroom with bare walls and minimal furniture, but it felt like a fresh start. I needed to rebuild, and I needed to do it on my own. I didn't talk to Emma for weeks. Her messages kept coming, texts, phone calls, even emails, but I ignored them all. Every attempt felt like a stab to my chest. I was angry, hurt, and honestly I was scared. Scared of being hurt again, scared of letting someone in. What Emma had done to me had shattered more than just my trust. It had shaken my entire belief in love. First, I threw myself into work. It was easier to focus on something concrete, something I could control, than to deal with a mess of emotions swirling in my head. I buried myself in my job, working long hours to avoid thinking about what had happened. But even work couldn't fill the hole Emma had left in me. I stopped going out with friends. I stopped responding to their invitations to grab a drink, to meet up for dinner. I didn't want to hear about their lives, their relationships. I didn't want to hear about people who still believed in love, because I didn't know if I could anymore. I started spending my nights alone, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of my relationship with Emma. The moments I thought were perfect. The moments I thought were real. Then one evening, as I sat in my new apartment, something unexpected happened. The doorbell rang. Froze. It was late, almost midnight. Who could it be? I wasn't expecting anyone. My heart raced as I walked toward the door, my mind racing with possibilities. Was it Emma? Had she finally found me? I opened the door to find a woman standing on the other side. She was in her late 20s, tall, with dark hair and striking features. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. "Hi," she said, offering me a small smile. "Are you Riley?" I nodded cautiously, unsure of what was going on. "I'm Megan," she said, her voice a little uncertain. "I know this might seem strange, but I think we need to talk." I felt a rush of confusion. Talk? About what? She looked down, her eyes momentarily flickering with emotion before she spoke again. "About Emma." My heart sank. I didn't know what she was talking about. Was Emma trying to track me down? Was she sending someone to convince me to come back? I felt a wave of anger rush over me. "I don't want to talk to her," I said firmly. "I don't want to hear anything about her." Megan shook her head. "It's not about that. It's about the truth. I'm not here to change your mind or to try to make things right. I'm here to tell you something that you need to know. Something you've been kept in the dark about." My confusion deepened. "What are you talking about?" She glanced around nervously, like she was worried someone might overhear. "Can I come inside? It's important. It's about what Emma did." "And why?" I hesitated for a moment, but something in her eyes made me pause. I opened the door wider and motioned for her to come inside. Once she sat down on the couch, she took a deep breath before speaking again. "I'm going to tell you everything. The full truth." I braced myself, unsure of what I was about to hear. "Emma didn't just cheat on you with Nick," Megan began. "There was more to it. Much more." I sat up straighter, my stomach flipping with a sense of dread. Megan continued, her voice low and steady. "Nick isn't just some guy she met at work. He's been blackmailing her. He had something on her, something she didn't want you to know about. He was threatening her, Riley. Threatening to ruin her life if she didn't keep seeing him." I stared at her, trying to process the words. Blackmail? What are you talking about? Megan nodded. Nick has been manipulating her for months. He found something from her past, a secret she thought was buried, and he used it to control her. He didn't care about her, Riley. He only wanted power, and he used her to get it. I felt a wave of disbelief wash over me. What kind of secret? What could she possibly have been hiding? Megan's eyes softened. It's not my place to tell you everything, but it's something that would have destroyed her reputation, her career. She was terrified, and when Nick started threatening her, she didn't know what to do. She thought she had no choice but to go along with it. 1,000 thoughts swirled in my head. Could this really be true? Was Emma really being manipulated all along? The woman I had loved and trusted, was she a victim too? She never wanted to hurt you, Riley, Megan added. She wasn't thinking clearly. She thought she could keep you in the dark, but it all became too much. The guilt, the lies, it broke her. I sat in silence, my mind racing. The image of Emma, the woman who had cheated on me, shifted in my mind. Was it possible that she hadn't done this willingly? Could she have been trapped in a situation she couldn't control? But even with this new information, the hurt still lingered. The betrayal still stung. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. And even if I could, what would it mean? Could we ever go back to the way things were? Megan stood up, her face soft with sympathy. I just wanted you to know the truth. You deserve that. You deserve to know what really happened. As she left, I sat there, processing everything she had told me. I didn't know what to believe. Was Emma really a victim, or was she just as guilty as I thought? I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. My life was never going to be the same. Chapter 5. A New Perspective. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions, a mixture of confusion, anger, and the faintest glimmer of understanding. Megan's revelation about Emma's blackmail, the thought that she had been a victim in some twisted scheme, rattled me to my core. I had always believed in the idea of betrayal as a clear-cut issue, a line that was either crossed or respected. But now things were blurred. The lines had become smudged, and I found myself questioning everything I thought I knew about Emma and what had happened between us. I still couldn't decide if I should be angry with her or feel sorry for her. Both emotions churned inside me, often simultaneously, leaving me feeling like I was suffocating in this emotional limbo. The truth didn't undo the pain, and the betrayal didn't evaporate just because Emma had been under duress. I wanted to hate her, but part of me still loved her, still mourned the woman I thought she was. It felt like I was trapped in a constant tug-of-war between my heart and my head. I hadn't spoken to Emma since Megan's visit, and I had no intention of reaching out. Part of me wanted to demand answers, to understand everything fully, but another part of me knew that I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't sure if I'd ever be ready to hear her side of the story. It wasn't just about what she'd done anymore. It was about everything she hadn't told me. The secret she'd kept buried, the lies she'd told, the trust she'd shattered. I spent more time alone than I cared to admit, walking the streets of the city, lost in my thoughts. The new apartment, though it was small and simple, had become a temporary refuge. I was still unsure if I'd stay there for long, but for now it was my only space, my only place of solitude. My mind, however, was never truly at rest. It wandered constantly to Emma, to the life we had shared, to the life that had been destroyed in a matter of moments. Then, one evening after work, I received another message from Emma. I'd been trying to avoid her, but I couldn't ignore it this time. The text was short, but the tone was different from all the others. It was simple, urgent, and filled with emotion. Riley, I need to see you. Please. I have to explain everything. I can't live with this guilt anymore. Just one last time. Please. I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity. My heart was pounding, my head was spinning. I wanted to say no, wanted to tell her to leave me alone. But part of me, a part one wasn't ready to admit, still cared. Still needed to hear her side of the story. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her, but a part of me longed for closure, for some kind of peace. Against my better judgment, I typed a quick response. Where? Her reply came almost immediately. There's a park near your apartment. I'll be there in an hour. Please don't say no. I stared at the message, the weight of the decision settling on my shoulders. Part of me wanted to scream, to slam the phone down and never look back. But the other part, the part that had loved her for so long, knew that this was the moment I would have to confront it all. I walked to the park, my steps slow and hesitant. The night was cool, the sky a blanket of stars above me. I reached the spot she had mentioned, a quiet, secluded area near a small fountain. The faint sound of water trickling was the only noise that filled the space. She was already there, sitting on a bench, her back to me. The sight of her brought a wave of conflicting emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. She hadn't changed, but the woman I saw now felt like a stranger. Riley. Her voice was soft, almost broken as she turned to face me. I didn't think you'd come. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to yell, to tell her how much she had hurt me. But I stayed silent, just watching her. She looked exhausted, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. It was clear that the guilt had been eating at her for months, maybe longer. And in that moment I realized something. She wasn't the woman I thought I knew. She was someone broken, someone who had been trapped in a situation far worse than I'd imagined. I don't know what to say, Emma. I finally spoke, my voice cracking. I've been so angry. You lied to me, you cheated on me, and I don't even know who you are anymore. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes again. I know. And I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. But I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know what to do. Nick. He had me in a corner, Riley. I thought he was the answer. But he wasn't. And I hurt you in the process. I'm so sorry. I swallowed, the sting of her words still fresh. I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Emma looked down, ashamed. I don't expect you to. I've lost your trust, and I don't know how to get it back. But I had to tell you the truth. You deserve that much. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I don't know what's worse, finding out you were cheating or finding out that you were being controlled this whole time. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with pain. Maybe both. But I wanted to tell you the truth. I wanted you to know what really happened. There was silence between us, heavy and thick. I didn't know what to feel. I was still hurt, still angry, but there was a small part of me that understood. Emma wasn't entirely to blame. There had been forces at play that she had no control over. But that didn't change the fact that she had made choices that had destroyed everything we'd built together. I don't know if we can ever fix this, Emma, I said finally. I'm not sure if I want to. But I need to heal. I need to figure out how to move on. She nodded, wiping away a tear. I understand. And I'll respect that. If you need space, I'll give it to you. But I just want you to know. I never stopped loving you. I was just too scared to admit it. I made mistakes, and I'm sorry for that. I turned to walk away, the weight of everything still pressing heavily on my chest. As I left the park, I realized something. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. But it was a new beginning. Chapter 6. The Ghost of the Past. The days after our conversation in the park were a blur. I had left Emma there, standing alone in the quiet night, and returned to my apartment, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted inside me. There was a part of me that wanted to believe her, wanted to believe that she had truly been trapped by Nick, that she had been manipulated into her actions. But another part of me, the part that had been betrayed, couldn't let go of the fact that she had still chosen to lie to me, to cheat on me, even under duress. I couldn't help but replay our conversation in my mind. Every word she said, every look she gave me, it all felt like a puzzle I wasn't sure I wanted to solve. Emma's apology had been heartfelt, I could tell. But the damage had been done. I had trusted her with everything I had, and she had shattered that trust in the most painful way possible. I spent the next few days in a haze. Work became a blur, and I found it difficult to focus on anything for too long. My mind kept drifting back to Emma, to the life we once had. But it was more than just her. There was something else gnawing at me. The questions kept coming, questions I didn't have answers to. What was the secret Emma had been hiding? What had Nick used against her? And why, after all this time, had Megan decided to reach out to me? Was she really telling the truth? But the most pressing question of all, the one I couldn't seem to shake, was this. How could I move forward when I was so caught up in the past? It wasn't long before I began to seek answers. I knew that if I wanted to move on, I had to understand the full story. I had to understand why Emma had done what she did, why she had let it all spiral out of control. And so, I found myself sitting in my car one evening, parked outside a familiar building, Nick's office. The sleek glass structure towered in front of me, cold and unfeeling, much like the man who had caused all of this chaos. I didn't know what I hoped to accomplish by showing up here. I wasn't sure if I was looking for answers or if I was simply trying to confront the source of all the pain. Either way, I was here now, and I had no intention of leaving until I had the truth. I sat in my car for a few minutes, debating whether or not to actually go inside. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, my palms sweaty. The idea of facing Nick filled me with a mix of anger and dread. He was the one who had manipulated Emma, the one who had caused the rift in our relationship. But what if he was just another pawn in this twisted game? What if there was more to the story than I had realized? After a deep breath, I stepped out of the car and made my way toward the entrance. The building was quiet, but I could still feel the weight of the decision I was about to make. Every step felt heavier than the last, and as I pushed open the door, I knew I wasn't going to walk out of here the same person. The receptionist at the front desk gave me a curious look as I approached. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice professional yet tinged with suspicion. "I need to speak with Nick Carter," I said, my voice steady but with a hint of uncertainty. She raised an eyebrow. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," I replied, my heart racing. "But it's urgent." Riley. His ex." The receptionist's expression softened slightly, and she picked up the phone, dialing a number. I could hear the faint murmur of a conversation, but my thoughts were too loud to focus on what she was saying. Moments later, she hung up the phone and gestured toward the elevator. "He'll see you. Take the elevator to the top floor." I didn't waste any time. The elevator ride felt like an eternity, my mind swirling with a mixture of rage and apprehension. What would I say to him? What could I possibly say to the man who had nearly destroyed everything? The doors opened with a soft ding, and I stepped into a sleek, minimalist office. Nick was sitting behind a large desk, a smug smile spreading across his face as he stood to greet me. "Well, well," he said, his voice dripping with amusement. "Riley, I didn't expect you to come. I've been hearing a lot about you lately." I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to lash out. "I'm not here for small talk, Nick. I need to know the truth. I need to understand what you did to Emma. Why did you do it?" His smile faltered for a moment, but then he leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying the power he had over me. "The truth? Well, you're going to have to be more specific, my friend. There's a lot of truth to go around." "Don't play games with me," I snapped. "I know about the blackmail. I know you had something over Emma. And I want to know what it was." Nick's eyes gleamed with a mixture of surprise and amusement. Well, seems you've been doing some digging. Impressive. But it's too bad you still don't know the full story." I stepped closer to his desk, my heart pounding in my chest. "What do you mean by that?" He leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing. "You're right about one thing. I did have something on Emma. But what you don't know is that the thing I had over her was something she could never have imagined in her wildest dreams. And now you're here, asking questions you might not want the answers to." My blood ran cold. What was he talking about? What did he mean? And why did it feel like I had just walked into something far darker than I had anticipated? Nick's smile grew wider, and I realized that I wasn't going to get the answers I was looking for. Not without a fight. Chapter 7. The Hidden Truth. Nick's words lingered in the air like smoke, thick with implication and mystery. He knew more than he was letting on, and I was beginning to realize that I had walked into something much bigger than I had anticipated. The casual way he leaned back in his chair, as though he were enjoying my discomfort, made my skin crawl. I had to press him, had to push for answers. But every word he spoke only seemed to open up more questions. I stood there, my fists clenched at my sides, as the tension between us grew unbearable. His smugness was infuriating, and every fiber of my being wanted to launch myself across the room and make him tell me everything. But I couldn't. I had to stay composed to outsmart him, or I might never get the truth. "Stop playing games, Nick," I said, my voice steady but laced with a quiet fury. "What do you mean by the thing she could never imagine? What did you do to her?" He chuckled, clearly enjoying the power he had over me. "Oh, Riley, you really have no idea, do you? You think this is about Emma being blackmailed or manipulated. You think this is some simple love triangle. It's far more complicated than that." I narrowed my eyes. "What the hell are you talking about?" Nick leaned forward, his eyes glinting with something dark and dangerous. "I didn't need to force Emma to do anything. She came to me willingly, just like you did. But what you don't know, what you can't know, is that Emma and I have a history. A history that goes far deeper than you could ever understand." I swallowed hard. History. What was he saying? My mind raced with possibilities, but none of them made sense. How could Emma have any history with someone like Nick? He was cruel, manipulative, a person who only cared about control. Emma had always been so different from that. "Don't try to mess with me, Nick," I said, my voice growing more urgent. "You're lying. You're trying to confuse me. Emma never wanted you. She told me everything." Nick smirked, as though my anger amused him. "She told you everything, huh? So she told you about the things we did together. The things she agreed to, the promises she made." "No, I think there's a lot she didn't tell you, Riley. And I don't think you're ready to hear it." My chest tightened. I could feel the walls closing in on me. I wasn't prepared for this. What was he trying to tell me? Why was he hinting at something so dark, so twisted? "Enough with the riddles," I spat, my patience running thin. "Just tell me what you did to her, Nick. What the hell happened between you two?" Nick stood up, walking slowly around the desk, his eyes never leaving mine. "Fine. You want to know? Let me tell you then. Emma came to me a year ago. It wasn't anything romantic at first. She was vulnerable, fragile. She had problems, you see, problems she couldn't handle on her own. And I offered her something she didn't have anywhere else. Control. Power." I felt a knot twist in my stomach. "What kind of control? What are you talking about?" Nick's smile grew wider, like a predator savoring its prey. "She wanted power in her life. She wanted control over everything. Her career, her emotions, her relationships. And she thought she could get it through me. So I made her a deal." "A deal?" My voice wavered. "What kind of deal?" "Simple," Nick said, his eyes glinting with something cruel. "I gave her a taste of the power she craved. But in exchange I asked for something in return. A little collaboration. First it was innocent. Meetings. Discussions. But eventually it escalated." My heart dropped. I could feel the weight of his words sinking in, but I didn't want to believe it. "No. Emma would never." Nick cut me off. "Oh, she did. She came to me willingly, Riley. We had a connection, a chemistry. And once she realized what I could give her, she couldn't resist. So we entered a partnership, if you want to call it that. I gave her the power she craved, and she gave me her trust. But that trust was only skin deep. She wasn't the victim here, Riley. She was complicit." I stumbled back a step, as though his words had physically struck me. My world, the one I thought I understood, was crumbling around me. Everything I had believed about Emma was suddenly in question. She wasn't the innocent, betrayed woman I had thought she was. She had made choices. She had chosen this path. "And then," I managed to whisper, my voice shaking. "And then," Nick said with a dark chuckle, "things got complicated. She wanted more. She wanted everything. But she didn't understand that everything comes with a price. She wanted power, but she couldn't control it. She thought she could leave me behind when she had enough, but I didn't let her. That's when the real blackmail started. I felt a chill run down my spine. So you didn't force her? No, Nick said, his voice almost casual. I didn't force her. I manipulated her. There's a difference. And I made sure she knew what was at stake. I could feel the floor slipping out from under me. The Emma I had loved, the woman I had trusted, was someone I no longer recognized. She had been part of this web of manipulation, of deceit, and I had been too blind to see it. She wasn't a victim of Nick's blackmail. She had chosen to walk down this path, and she had dragged me along with her, unwittingly, into a world of darkness. I was numb, too stunned to speak. The answers I had been seeking for so long had only led to more questions. Emma wasn't just the victim of an affair. She had been complicit, choosing power over trust, ambition over love. And I was the fool who had been left in the wreckage of it all. Nick was watching me intently, like a predator savoring the moment. You wanted the truth, Riley. Now you have it. But be careful what you wish for. Because the truth isn't always what it seems. Chapter 8. The shocking revelation. The words Nick had dropped on me hit me like a ton of bricks, and I felt the weight of everything crashing down. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make the world make sense again. But it didn't. Couldn't. Everything I thought I knew, everything I believed about Emma, my life, my choices, had just unraveled before me. I was standing in the ruins of my own reality, and I wasn't sure if I could pick up the pieces. Nick watched me, his eyes cold, calculating, as if he were watching a reaction that didn't surprise him. I could feel the anger burning inside me, but more than that, I felt betrayal. Not just from Emma, but from myself for not seeing this coming, for not recognizing the signs. You're lying, I managed to choke out. My voice was unsteady, barely a whisper, but it held the weight of everything I had to say. She wouldn't do that. She wouldn't. Nick raised a hand, silencing me. You're in denial, Riley. Emma didn't just get caught in my web. She chose to be there. You think I'm the bad guy here, but you don't see her for what she really is. She's not the sweet, innocent woman you thought she was. She's more like me than you could ever understand. I shook my head, the words too much to digest, but still I couldn't help the swirling, gnawing feeling that maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. I looked at Nick, my mind racing. What was his game? What was the purpose of all this? Why had he let me in, let me hear all these twisted details? Why are you telling me this? I asked, the question slipping out before I could stop it. Why not just let it all be? Why drag me into it? He smiled again, but this time there was no amusement in it. It was a smile of finality, like he had orchestrated every moment of this encounter. Because you need to know, Riley. You need to understand the kind of person Emma really is. And more importantly, you need to know why she came to me in the first place. I felt my heart drop at his words, but I couldn't stop myself from asking. Why? Why did she come to you? Nick's eyes gleamed with something dangerous, almost predatory. She came to me because she wanted something more. She wanted to be in control. She wanted to take the power back in her life. And I gave it to her. The truth is, I never had to force her. She came to me willingly. But in the end, it wasn't just about power. It was about control. Emma wanted to control everything. Her career, her relationships, her life. I couldn't even respond. The idea of Emma wanting power, wanting control at the cost of everything, made my skin crawl. She had always been ambitious, but I never thought it would go this far. I had known she had a complicated past, but I hadn't known the depths of her ambition, or her willingness to sacrifice anything to get what she wanted. What are you going to do with all this information? Nick asked, his voice low and taunting, as if he already knew the answer. You're going to leave her. Walk away. Or are you going to confront her and ask her for the truth? Maybe she'll admit it, but I wouldn't hold my breath. I didn't know what to say. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach, and I couldn't think straight. Nick had turned everything I thought I knew upside down, and now I was left with nothing but pieces of a shattered past. But something inside me snapped, something cold and detached like a switch had been flipped. I knew that I couldn't leave here without understanding the full extent of what had happened. I had to know the truth, not just from Nick, but from Emma. No matter how much it hurt, I needed to see the truth for myself. "I'm going to confront her," I said, the words coming out more firmly than I expected. "And I'll make her tell me everything." Nick raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by my reaction. "Well, that's bold. But just so you know, Riley, the truth isn't always what you think it is. People lie. They manipulate. They hide their darkest secrets. You can't just go in there thinking you're going to get a neat little confession. People don't always have a clean conscience. Some things, once revealed, can never be undone." I nodded stiffly. I didn't care. I needed the truth. I needed closure, even if it shattered the last remnants of my trust in her. As I turned to leave the office, I felt Nick's eyes on me. There was something almost predatory in his gaze, like he was watching a puppet dance on its strings, knowing I had no idea what I was walking into. But the warning in his words didn't stop me. I had to face Emma. I had to confront her, no matter what. The elevator ride down was agonizingly slow. Every floor felt like it dragged me deeper into the abyss. My mind was filled with a swirling storm of emotions: anger, confusion, betrayal. But more than anything, I felt a deep, hollow ache in my chest. The woman I had loved, the one I had trusted with my heart, was no longer who I thought she was. And I had no idea how I was supposed to reconcile that with the reality I had built for myself. I left the building, my feet heavy with the weight of what was to come. I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Whether I would find redemption or further destruction, I couldn't say. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let this go until I had all the answers. Chapter 9. The Confrontation. I walked into our apartment with purpose, every step fueled by a mix of dread and determination. The door clicked shut behind me, echoing in the empty space like a warning bell. My pulse raced as I set down my bag, my heart heavy with the weight of everything I had learned. This wasn't just another argument with Emma. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding that could be fixed with a conversation or a gesture of affection. No, this was the culmination of everything I'd been blind to for months. I found her sitting on the couch, her body relaxed, but her eyes immediately shifting to me the second I entered. Her face seemed to drop just slightly, as though she sensed something had changed in the air. She had always been perceptive, and now I wondered if she could sense the anger, the betrayal, the overwhelming need for answers that flooded my mind. She smiled softly, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was the same practiced smile she had worn in all those moments when things weren't quite right between us. The mask she put on to hide the cracks in her perfect image. "Hey babe," she said, her voice light, almost too light. She was trying to act normal, like everything was fine, like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. "Don't," I said, my voice flat. "Don't pretend like everything is okay." Her smile faltered for a moment, but she recovered quickly, sitting up straighter. "What's wrong?" I could hear the edge of concern in her voice, but it felt forced, like she was trying to maintain control of the situation. And in a way, I suppose she was. She had always been in control of her own life, but now I realized she had been controlling more than just her own narrative. She had been controlling mine too. I took a deep breath, stepping closer, my eyes locked on hers. "I know everything, Emma. I know what you did. I know about you and Nick." Her face went white. The blood drained from her cheeks, and for a brief moment, I saw genuine fear flash in her eyes. It was as though I had just pulled the rug out from beneath her, and for the first time, she was left standing on unsteady ground. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice trembling just slightly. She was good at lying. I'd give her that. But I could see right through it now. I wasn't going to let her dance around the truth anymore. "I know everything, Emma," I repeated, my voice growing louder, stronger. "How you went to him, how you let him manipulate you. How you used me, how you let this whole thing spiral out of control. How you let me fall for your lies while you were playing both sides. How you thought I wouldn't find out. How you thought I would just sit by and let it happen?" Her expression hardened, but I could see the crack in her facade, the flicker of guilt she was trying to hide. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off before she could speak. "You didn't just betray me, Emma. You betrayed us. You used me to get what you wanted, and now you've dragged me into your mess. I don't know who you are anymore. I don't know if I ever did." There it was. The thing I had been holding back, the thing I had been too afraid to say, too afraid to believe. But now it was out in the open, and I could see the walls around her begin to crumble. For the first time, I wasn't just talking to the woman I loved. I was talking to the stranger who had deceived me for so long. Emma's face twisted, the mask of control slipping just enough for me to see the raw emotion behind it. She looked like she wanted to fight back, to deny everything, but instead she sat there, her shoulders slumped, her hands clenched in her lap. There was a moment of silence, the air thick with tension. "You have no idea what this has been like for me," she whispered, her voice cracking slightly. It was a moment of vulnerability, one that made my heart ache, but I knew better than to let my guard down. "Then tell me, Emma," I challenged, my voice hardening. "Tell me everything. Don't lie to me anymore. Don't try to cover this up. You owe me that much at least." She stood up suddenly, her movements sharp and defensive. "You don't get it, Riley. You don't understand what I was going through. I was losing everything. My career, my self-worth. Nick didn't make me do anything. He gave me what I needed. The power, the control. I was drowning, and he threw me a lifeline." I stared at her, unable to process what I was hearing. "So this is all my fault. This is about your needs, Emma? Your power trip. Thought you loved me. I thought we were building something real. But this is just about you, isn't it? About what you can control." Her eyes glistened, and for a moment I thought she might break down, that she might finally admit what she had done. But instead she looked away, her face hardening again, the walls going back up. "I never meant to hurt you," she said quietly, her voice distant. "But I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop what I had started. And by the time I realized what I was doing, it was too late. You were too close. I couldn't let you in, Riley. I couldn't let you see the real me." The words hit me like a slap. The real her. I had never known who she truly was. And now I was standing here, trying to make sense of everything that had been built on lies. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I whispered, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "I don't know if I can trust you anymore." She flinched, her face crumpling as if I had physically hurt her. "Please, Riley, don't say that." But I didn't let her finish. "No, Emma. I can't pretend that everything is okay. You've shattered everything. And I can't pick up the pieces anymore." She took a step toward me, but I held up my hand, stopping her in her tracks. "I couldn't do this. Not now. Not after everything. Just leave me alone," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her standing there, a broken shell of the woman I thought I knew. Chapter 10: The Aftermath. Days passed, but the silence in the apartment was deafening. Emma and I hadn't spoken since that night. I could feel her presence lingering in the space, a ghost of the life we had once shared. Every corner, every piece of furniture, every small detail in the apartment reminded me of the woman I thought I knew. But now all I saw was a stranger, a person I no longer recognized. I didn't know what came next. I had no idea how to move on from the wreckage of what Emma and I had built together. Everything felt hollow. I kept replaying our last conversation in my head, wondering if I could have done something differently. Maybe if I had listened sooner. Maybe if I had seen the signs. But it was too late now. I couldn't pretend anymore that everything was fine. I couldn't keep lying to myself about the love I had once felt for her. That love had died the moment she let someone else tear us apart. The woman who had once held my heart in her hands was now someone I feared, someone I resented. A week later, I finally gathered the strength to pack up my things. It wasn't dramatic, no shouting or anger. It was quiet, almost peaceful. I wasn't leaving with rage in my heart. I was leaving with emptiness. Had to go. For my own sanity, for my own future. I couldn't stay in that place anymore, haunted by memories of a love that had betrayed me. When I walked out the door, I didn't look back. 2 months passed, and Emma and I didn't speak. Not a single word. I saw her a few times around town, but we always kept our distance. I had heard through mutual friends that she had gone silent, withdrawn from everything. She wasn't the same person either. People had started to notice the change in her, just as I had. It was strange seeing her in public, but it didn't sting as much as it had at first. I think I had finally come to terms with the fact that the woman I had loved, the woman I thought I knew, had never really existed. She was a product of my own illusions, someone I had built up in my mind to be perfect, to be flawless. But now I understood she was flawed, just like everyone else. And maybe, just maybe, she was still struggling to find herself. I ran into her again one afternoon at a coffee shop. She was sitting alone by the window, staring out at the street. I had to admit, seeing her like this, vulnerable, lost, did something to me. I still loved her, a part of me always would. But I also realized that love was not enough. Not anymore. I walked past her, my heart heavy, but I didn't stop. I didn't even acknowledge her presence. She looked up at the sound of my footsteps, but I didn't turn. I kept walking out the door and into the unknown. The truth was, I didn't need closure from her. I didn't need her to apologize or beg for my forgiveness. I didn't need any of that. What I needed was to find myself again, to rediscover who I was before her. I had been so consumed by our relationship, by the love I thought was real, that I had lost sight of the person I used to be. And now it was time to reclaim that person. Months later, I found myself in a better place. I had moved to a new city, started a new job, and slowly rebuilt my life. The pain of the betrayal still lingered, but it didn't control me anymore. I had learned to forgive first myself. I had to accept that I wasn't perfect, and neither was Emma. We were both people trying to figure things out, but we had failed to do that together. One evening I received a message from Emma. She apologized. She didn't ask for forgiveness, and she didn't ask to rekindle anything. She simply said, "I hope you find the peace you deserve." I stared at the message for a long time, unsure of what to feel. I thought about responding. I thought about telling her that I had moved on, that I was doing better. But in the end, I simply put my phone down, took a deep breath, and let go of the last vestiges of our past. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I had learned to live for myself, and in the process, I realized I didn't need her to define me. I was enough on my own. And with that, I closed the chapter of Emma and me. It wasn't the ending I had expected, but it was the ending I needed. The only thing left now was to look forward, to the future, to a life that was mine to shape. The end.